Welcome back. Today we're going to continue on with our discussion of Aristotle, and I'm speaking to you today on video because I am not with you. And so I'm trying to continue on with the some more that we had started last week. Some of you did some work on that and had a little bit of confusion, I would say, over a couple of the points that Aristotle had to make. Particularly in the point of the analogy of the car. So hopefully Nick and I don't remember who it was who worked with him, but hopefully the two of you have had an opportunity to redo your PowerPoint presentation and to present it to the rest of the class. It is very important during this time that we can really come to understand what it is that the different philosophers who we are studying are teaching us. We can't really look at things in light of today's world. We must look at things in the light of the time that they lived. So when we're studying Aristotle, it is extremely important that we look at everything in terms of what Aristotle had to say, the world of that Aristotle lived in, and not in the 21st century that we live in today. Later on in the course, we will be able to see how we are pulling together threads that have been sewn throughout the whole time, starting way back at Pythagoras and coming through right up until the 21st century today, that help us to understand how we can make good ethical decisions. So today we start with the concept of, if I believe that I'm happy, then am I happy? And in the 21st century today, we might say, well, yes, of course. If I say I'm happy, then I'm happy. And if I say I'm not happy, then I'm not happy. But Aristotle actually had an awful lot to say about this. And he does this in one of his books that he's writing. One of them was in book number 10 of his Ethics series. And he says this, and I quote, "No one could choose to live with the intellect of a child throughout his life, however much he were pleased at things that children are pleased at, nor to get enjoyment by doing some most disgraceful deed, though he were never to feel any pain in the consequence." And again later in the book he says, "Those pleasures which are admittedly disgraceful plainly should not be said to be pleasures, except to the perverted taste." So when we're looking at Aristotle in terms of happiness, we're not really looking at the concept of pleasure. Pleasure and happiness are not two concepts that parallel. Pleasure may be available through happiness, and happiness may bring about pleasure. But pleasure often comes from being at one of the ends of the spectrum that we spoke about last time. So remember that the ultimate goal is happiness, and happiness is in the mean of the person's life. It is not in the extreme in either direction, or I should say maybe in any direction. That's an important point that Aristotle makes. He says that there is really a very limited view on happiness for most people because they get confused with the idea of pleasure. This distorted view of life and view of what it is that we're searching for actually is a misunderstanding of what our ultimate goal is. And again, that ultimate goal is true happiness, which we would today call that being in line with our relationship with God. And it really doesn't matter for someone who is well-developed and mature in their own relationship with God. They could be in the worst situation that you can imagine, and they may not be what we would call happy today, but they are joyful. And that means that they are full of joy. Joy to us in today's 21st century understanding of the word joy is very, very close to the understanding of happiness in Aristotle's time.